Okay. Some announcements. The Select Board will meet on the following dates at 5 p.m. Tuesday, January 17th, for a budget work session. Our last budget work session, hopefully. Monday, January 23rd, and we'll have a series of public hearings during that regular Select Board meeting. Despite there being times advertised for these, they're stacked up, so it could be a little bit here or there. We won't start anything early, but we could see some things start a little bit late if discussions go long. So the first one is at 5:15. It's a public hearing held in accordance with RSA 33:8-A(1) to allow the board to take public input and discuss a warrant article which will be placed on the 2023-2024 fiscal year town warrant. This warrant article will seek voters' approval to allow the Select Board to negotiate the issuance of bonds, loans, or notes not to exceed the amount of $686,000. These funds, if approved by the voters, will be utilized to place a solar array on property owned by the town of Plymouth. So that's the first one. The second one, roughly at 5:30 p.m., public hearing held in accordance with RSA 33:8-A(1) to allow the board to take public input and discuss a warrant article which will be placed on the 2023-2024 fiscal year town warrant. This warrant article will seek voters' approval to allow the Select Board to negotiate the issuance of bonds, loans, or notes not to exceed the amount of $1,800,000. These funds, if approved, will be utilized as the additional funding needed by the town of Plymouth to proceed with the downtown South Main Street drainage project. And then finally, the third one, assuming we can stay on track that night, will be at 5:45 p.m. And this will be the first public hearing on the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget. And the board will hold that for the purpose of reviewing the proposed 2023-2024 town budget. So that's the first of those hearings. Assuming we need another hearing, there will be a second hearing. And that'll be on Thursday, February 9th, 2023. And that'll be the second hearing on the budget if needed for the purpose of finalizing. And then we're going to read the petition warrant articles for the town budget and warrant that evening. So if anybody wants feedback or participation around that. Again, that's a Thursday, so extra note, it is a Thursday, not a normal Monday, there's a Monday and a Tuesday meeting in this list, so we're all over the place. And then finally, the Select Board in the month of February will meet on the 13th and the 27th. As usual, all meetings will be held upstairs in Town Hall and held by Zoom. Zoom information can be found on the town's website, plymouth-nh.org. Any citizens wishing to be listed on the agenda should notify Town Hall before noon, the Thursday before the scheduled meeting. One other announcement is that town offices will be closed on Monday, January 16th for Martin Luther King Jr. / Civil Rights Day, and that's why our board meeting or budget work session is shifted to Tuesday that week. All right. I don't have any specific comments. We have a public hearing at 5:15. Scott, how long's your report tonight? Long? Medium?
It's medium. But I can give one other thing if you'd like that Josie gave me to bring up with regards to some upcoming things that are going on. Dog licensing, just a reminder of dog licensing renewals have been mailed to community dog owners. The deadline to license existing new dogs are April 30th, 2023. All of the information is available at the town clerk, PlymouthNewHampshire.com website. Running for town office, notice is hereby given to the residents of Plymouth, New Hampshire that the town has several seats on town boards that are up for election on Tuesday, March 14th, 2023. The filing period begins on Wednesday, January 25th, 2023, and runs through Friday, February 3rd at 5 p.m. The positions that are up for election is 2 selectman seats for a 3-year term, 1 moderator seat for a 2-year term, 1 treasurer, 3-year term, 3 library trustees for a 3-year term, 1 cemetery trustee for a 3-year term, and 1 trustee of the trust funds for a 3-year term. Again, all the information available at the town clerk's website. absentee ballots. Registered voters who would like to request an absentee ballot for the annual town election can find the absentee ballot request form at the town clerk's office or online. And last was new residents are encouraged to register to vote at the office of the town clerk or by visiting the town clerk's website or contacting the town clerk at 603-536-1732 to learn about voter qualifications and how to register to vote. Again, all the information is currently posted on the town clerk's website.
Thanks, Scott. Speaking of dogs, do we have a dog officer in town? What
We
is
do not. The police department,
so if there are dogs uncollared wandering around in the neighborhood, that would be just a regular call to the police, not
out to the
there's
police
no dog
department, and
officer
we
anymore.
do have a contract with the Humane Society in Laconia to transport those dogs because we don't have a place to house them. If they do pick up an abandoned dog or a dog that's running stray.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I think the police put it on Facebook when they find a dog.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that.
Yeah.
All right. That was a quick set of announcements. Trying to figure out what else we can squeeze in 8 minutes.
Maybe Neil's thing?
I've been getting a lot of people, there's two things people complain about. One is the roads in Plymouth. And I think, we've got a pretty good handle on how we're assessing those roads and going to deal with them. And the other one is actually not in our jurisdiction. It's Tenny Mountain Highway and Smith Bridge Road intersection. And the New Hampshire Electric Co-op built their complex back around 1975, I think. And they didn't line up their road with the Smith Bridge Road, which is kind of too bad. It should be lined up, but I don't know how much we can do to get them to, straighten out their entrance. But I'm getting a lot of people. I run into a lot of people every day, and they keep telling me how concerned they are about the safety of that intersection because the traffic volume is steadily increasing. And I would like to suggest that the board consider contacting the New Hampshire DOT again and possibly requesting that the speed limit be dropped by 5 miles an hour to 35 instead of 40, because so many people are driving 10 over and 20 over. It's almost impossible at times for people to get out of Smith Bridge Road, and not all drivers are really that capable in city type traffic.
I mean, they completely declined us last time we contacted them on
I
this.
don't
Is
think-
there another angle that we can take?
It's
you think?
another year. This is 2023, and we're still looking at a problem that's getting worse all the time. And the highway was designed in 1953. The culverts are frequently over top. They plunge at the outlet, which means that wildlife can't get through. Aquatic animals can't get through for sure. And the Fish and Game has stated that Tenny Mountain Highway is very high kill zone, a very high rate of kill zone for wildlife. And traffic pattern it's just getting more intense all the time. It seems that the population has grown so much, and you just have to live out there to know it, And that's where I live, and I deal with it myself. And people continually ask me why something isn't being done about it, and I try to tell them that it's not our jurisdiction, but we'll certainly try to do what we can. I'd like to see better signage. And, they could have better signs. They could have signs that maybe say wildlife crossing. And people oftentimes, if somebody slows down to make a right turn on a Smithbridge Road, people oftentimes will pass, and that's when a person who's been sitting there forever makes an attempt to get out. So, I think we should take a look at our police reports to see how many times the ambulance has been out there.
So I do have documentation. I did go on to the New Hampshire DOT Transportation Data Management System and did some research, as well as I spoke with Chief Hutchins and Chief Morrison with regards to what is taking place out there. And I did speak to New Hampshire DOT Division 3, as well as the engineering section. And what it comes down to is there's not enough evidence to accommodate any major changes out there. So from January of 2019 through December of 2022, there was a total of 9 motor vehicle accidents at that intersection. None of them involving serious injuries, but 9 accidents. And over the
What time
last
period was
year,
3 years.
sorry,
What time period was that?
that period was January of 2019 through December of 2022. And this is corroborated by the Transportation Data Management System, as well as the reports that Alex provided to me on the accidents that have taken place out there. So in 2021, there were 34 accidents along the entire stretch of Tenny Mountain Highway from exit 26 out to the traffic circle by last chair. In 2022, there was 37. So the number really hasn't changed at all. But in 2022, there was only 2 accidents that occurred at Smithbridge Road at the intersection of Tenny Mountain Highway. So that's the data that comes from New Hampshire DOT, as well as our local police department. And in speaking to them, until there's some substantial increase in accidents or incidents that take place, the state has said again and again to us that it's in our 10-year plan, but that nothing may occur until after 2026, 2027. Mm-hmm. So that's the research I was able to do, Neil, with regards to the conversation we had the other day on the statistics of what has taken place out there in the last few years.
What year was 37 accidents?
37 was 2022.
And that's all of Tenny Mountain, not just
Yeah.
that intersection.
Correct.
Yeah.
And, I know Alex has talked about the speed limit out there before, and in that area from Walmart to the area on the other side of Dunkin' Donuts or the car wash, that's a 40-mile-an-hour zone currently through that area. 55 miles an hour on the area from exit 26 to the car wash, and then 45 from Walmart out to the traffic circle.
Do we know how many accidents involve wildlife?
That I don't have, Mary Ann. I can ask Alex if that's documented.
Fishing
No.
game, is it?
Witness concern, just wondering.
Well, yeah, and I'm seeing a lot of pedestrian traffic out there too. And actually, there's a section where there's almost no way to walk between the cars and the guardrail. If you're heading west, just before you get to the intersection, there's a guardrail that's so tight to the travel lane that pedestrians are, I feel that it's a real hazard. And if you look at that, you think about it. There's a lot of pedestrian traffic out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think ideally if we had a sidewalk that ran that whole length, we'd all be a lot happier. But I think that's probably a ways off.
So it's up to the board if they, I don't know what you want to do.
I mean, if we don't have data that supports a case, I'm not sure that the state's going to give us any different response than they gave us last time.
So, you're saying sometime around 2026, we might be able to,
And speaking with their engineering department, it is in the 10-year plan, and it was in about the middle of that plan, which it started in 2021.
okay.
So that's why I use that time frame.
Well, I guess I would like to move that we send a letter to the DOT expressing our concerns so that they know that we're concerned.
It'll probably fall on deaf ears because they know they've already addressed it.
Put it in the file.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they'll do. I mean, it wouldn't hurt.
Is that a second?
Okay.
Reluctant second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I'd
Thank you.
take the letter we wrote last time and resurrect that as at least a starting point for what to say again.
Yep. Do you want to review the letter before I send it, or do you want me to get it out by the end of the week?
I would trust him.
I trust you, Scott. I would say we did make a slight faux pas last time we asked him about it because we said traffic circle instead of roundabout in terms of the intersection change, and they were confused by that.
Okay.
So we should be careful to make sure that when we mention the intersection, when we mention the 2022-2023 plan, that we're or whatever that is, the 2026, 2027, that we're being consistent with what is planned to do there and not make them think we're asking for something different in the 10-year plan.
And I'll get that out by the end of the week.
Awesome. And let's open our public hearing. It is 5:18. We're opening a public hearing. The Town of Plymouth Select Board's holding a public hearing pursuant to RSA 31:95B, which allows for acceptance of unanticipated funds to be accepted and spent. The amount of funds that will be received is $14,856.72 from the state of New Hampshire for the purpose of purchasing body cameras for the Plymouth Police Department. Technically, this is your agenda item, Anne. Should I?
If you would just, I think the letter from Nate actually explains it better than I can.
Okay, I will read the letter from Nate dated December 19th, 2022. Good evening. On June 13th, 2022, the Plymouth Police Department obtained body-worn cameras through Axon Enterprises for a total cost of $37,142.80 to be paid over 5 years. In June of 2022, we were awarded $6,686 in funds from the Governor's Office for Emergency Relief and Recovery to put towards the first year's payment. As a continued effort to find and secure grant funding to put toward the total cost of the purchase, we are pleased to ask the Board of Selectmen to accept and approve $14,856.72 in grant funding received from the Body Worn and Dashboard Camera Fund grant by the state of New Hampshire. We respectfully request that the Board of Selectmen approve and accept the grant funds to be used as a 50% match toward the remaining cost of the body-worn cameras and to allow Town Manager Whedon and Finance Director Bear signature authority for purposes of the grant agreement and reimbursement. Respectfully, Nate Buffington, Deputy Chief.
Okay, I'll make a motion that
You
we,
take public comment.
oh, sorry.
We will.
Got it.
Any other context or information we need? All right, so we will now take any public input from the overwhelming audience here around the acceptance of these grant funds.
Oh, come on, Tom.
Sounds like a great plan. Chief Moran says, sounds like a great plan. With that, I will close the public hearing, and it is 5:20 p.m. Now, Ted.
And now I can make the motion. I'll make the motion to accept the unanticipated funds in the in the amount of $14,856.72 for the purposes of purchasing body-worn dashboard camera. Body-worn camera, sorry.
And more specifically, to make the payment on the purchase we already made.
And also to appoint Scott Whedon or myself as signator on this grant.
And I will amend to add Ian and Scott as signatory.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, actually, I was just thinking about the cameras and such, and I think we made a really good decision as far as the kind of camera we have. There was another town that, had a rather serious event. They had like a shoulder camera, like with like a tube. It just like looked silly, and it probably was a pain to use, but yeah, I fully support this.
Yeah, I've seen some of the footage off the cameras, and
Yeah.
they do a good job.
Yeah.
I think that it will protect our police officers, and it'll protect the town.
Yeah, I think it goes both ways. It protects the citizens and it protects the police. It's good.
Any idea how long they last?
I don't, Mary Ann. If I recall, Nate and I having a conversation, I want to say it's every 8 to 10 years they have to be replaced. I'm pretty
So
sure.
after the fire, we get a little time. Okay, thanks.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. All right, so on to town manager's report.
Thank you. So I have quite a few things this week, but I think it's all things that are very positive and things that we're moving forward on. And the first is with the Fire and Rescue Department. I've been working with Chief Morrison, Deputy Chief Peters, Jennifer Goodwin, and Ann with regards to the ambulance billing reimbursement. We've met with Jeffrey Spencer from Medical Business Services, LLC, on December 20th. Jeff's company is the organization that provides the ambulance billing for the town of Plymouth. We are currently reviewing the billing structure, delinquent payments, contracts with towns we provide ambulance service to, and the ambulance budget. We met last week and talked about several different items with regards to budgeting, the contract towns, and things that we're taking a deeper dive into. I've also been in touch with New Hampshire Municipal Association to voice our concerns with regards to the reimbursement issues affecting EMS revenues, as well as I've provided Bill some information to take back to the legislature with regards to starting a conversation on this. I do have a document that Jeff wrote with regards to reimbursement issues affecting EMS revenues, and very current article written on December 21st, and specifically dealing with the state of New Hampshire. And I've provided this to NHMA, as well as Bill has a copy of this document, but I'll leave it in case anybody wants to take a look at it. But we will be continuing to work on that issue and have a further report after we dig a little bit deeper and have some conclusions to it. Anything you want to add, Tommy, to that, or?
I appreciate you working with us on that, and as we talked about before, it's a double-edged sword. As our costs go up, the reimbursements are going down. It's a product of the insurance companies, as we discussed, repricing our bills, and Medicare and Medicaid, which is half of our patient mix, paying like 30 cents on the dollar.
So we will continue to work on this and look at what the contract towns are currently paying versus what the budget is for the ambulance service. Other good news from the fire department is the town of Bristol received a grant for some hose, and Bristol Fire Department donated 1,100 feet of 4-inch hose to Plymouth Fire Rescue, which was greatly appreciated and will be used by the department. Plymouth Police Department, 4 donations have been received by the police department. First one was $295 from Hannaford, and it went towards the Plymouth PD holiday celebration. $1,000 from an anonymous donor to go towards community relations event, $7,500 from Mount Prospect Academy to go towards active threat equipment, and $2,500 from Mount Prospect Academy to go towards community relation events. I would ask that the board vote to accept these and allot them as designated by the police department for the events and the activities that have been outlined.
What is active threat equipment?
So anything to do with active shooter, whether it's at a school scenario, at a commercial business scenario. So preparing and providing the equipment to include the training, the equipment, and the activation of that in an active threat scenario.
What sort of equipment would that include?
Everything from outer ballistic vest, helmets, and other gear that they would use to gain entry, surveillance once they get in, cameras, a lot of different miscellaneous equipment that would relate to that.
My only hesitation around that is sometimes we buy equipment and we're excited to have grant money to purchase it, but then we've got to replace it in 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. And so we quietly increase our budget as opposed to saying, we know we need to buy this thing, and then we reduce our budget by getting grant funds, right? So that's the one thing I would be cautious about. And a sort of generic categorization like active threat equipment makes me a little concerned that.
And I know Alex has prepared articulated the list of equipment that he wants to purchase for that, and it's equipment that we currently don't have in place today.
So it would have replacement cycle costs.
It most likely would.
And something not planned in our capital improvement replacement plan.
Right.
So who determines that it goes towards active threat equipment? Did Mount Prospect Academy or did the PD say that's where it should go towards?
The PD designated where it should go. And the story behind it a little bit is that the police department had assisted them on some events that took place at Mount Prospect Academy, and we found that the police department maybe wasn't as equipped with what they should have in dealing with these situations. So in conversations between Chief Hutchins and Jeff Karen, who's the CEO up at Mount Prospect Academy, they had that conversation of what they could do to help the town prepare better for an active shooter type situation or threat situation. And that conversation ensued, and Mount Prospect Academy was able to get the funds to assist the town in acquiring that equipment.
But if we don't use it for active threat equipment, Mount Prospect pulls that back?
No,
Okay.
no, that equipment will be ours.
Not the equipment, but we couldn't use the fund some other place.
It really was, I wouldn't dare answer that, Mary Ann, because I know the conversation specifically through Chief Hutchins and Jeff Karam were for this type of equipment to be purchased and being able to handle those situations. In my opinion, it's something that in today's society and today's environment in which we live, we really need to equip the police department with this type of active threat equipment. And the generous donation of Mount Prospect Academy, who's really stepped up and has been a great community partner, was willing to take that on and fund that equipment for the agency.
Scott, I have a quick question. This community relations event, do we have any idea of what that is?
Yep, we do. So Alex has been working with Dan in the Recreation Department to expand on what we do for the youth and the community. And one of the thoughts is doing movie nights down at the amphitheater and being able to purchase speakers, the equipment needed to provide movie nights down at the amphitheater for all different ages, but holding it on a Friday night, holding it on a Sunday night. And that really was the gist of what they wanted to do with those funds.
And why is that police and not Parks and Rec?
Because Alex was using it as a community policing event, and Lisa didn't have the funds, nor did we have the funds in the public television account as well.
And I get what Zach is saying, but I still support the fact of taking the opportunity to get the equipment at this point. But I do agree that we're just adding to something that's going to have to be replaced 5-10 years down the pike.
You know, and I can do additional research and bring information back on the exact equipment that was purchased and what the replacement venue would be for that. But I think it's important that, you know, they have it and we get it as soon as we can.
So do we need a motion on this?
We already have the money too, so
So do we need to make a motion on each individual
you
one?
can accept the entire lot.
Okay. I will make a motion to accept the donations, $295, $1,000, $7,500, and $2,500 for the respective purposes outlined previously.
I'll second that. You don't want to say what all the things are? No, it's okay. You know,
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, moving on, Plymouth State University update. I met with Marlon on December 19th. During our budgetary meetings, we talked about the Recreation Department has not had use of the pool over at the Foley Fieldhouse. So Marlon and I had a conversation about that. He was going back to the cabinet to discuss that further in hopes that we could reactivate the Park and Recreation Department, being able to use the pool for not only swimming, but also lessons in that manner. We spoke about the Merrill Place equipment, radio antennas and repeaters, and developing a memorandum of understanding. In January, we're meeting with the university police as well as our police department, including Marlon, myself, and Tracy, to talk about how much on-call time our police department is responding to emergency calls on campus. And it's happening more frequently than not, but wanted to get all the parties together to have that conversation to see what we could do to resolve that. And then I had mentioned briefly before about a cluster project that the university had done in the city of Berlin and town of Gorham with regards to their water and sewer systems. And Marlon presented that to university cabinet at their last meeting. Marlon and I will have a follow-up meeting on January 17th, next Tuesday, and hopefully I'll have some answers with regards to the discussions that we've had. With regards to the highway department, as we saw a few months ago, or a couple months ago, Lakes Region Planning Commission had completed the road surface management and culvert reports. I've met with Joe and have asked him to create a priority list based on his evaluation on those reports, not only for the roads and the culverts, but the sidewalks as well. He has made that part of his strategic priorities for the next 3 to 6 months, so I'm hoping to have that list. And 2 of the roads that are presented in the budget this year are part of the road surface management program. As we all know, December 22nd through the 25th, we had a storm, a severe weather event that came through. And we had excessive amount of damage that was done in the town of Plymouth to roads, culverts, along different roadways. Worked with Homeland Security and Emergency Management and completed their incident damage report for the town of Plymouth, and looking at what we had, not only for the highway department, but also with highway department, fire department, the police department, and all departments that had an active role in that. We sustained about a total of $279,000 worth of damage, and that is including the Hunt Road culvert. That culvert was really put to task through that storm, and I've been out there to look at it. We had some more erosion on Friday, and the culvert is definitely going to have to be repaired. So like I said, with Old Hebron Road, Bartlett Road, Hunt Road culvert, Loon Lake Road, Texas Hill Road, our damages are estimated at about $279,000, which was submitted to Homeland Security Emergency Management on that Friday. So more to come on that. And as kind of a follow-up to that, I did have a meeting with the town of Bridgewater on January 4th. The primary point of discussion was the Hunt Road culvert, and I know, Bill, you've been over
Few
there
times, yeah.
and tried to have a conversation. And I was able to meet with the chairman of the board and their administrator and had a conversation with regards to the Hunt Road culvert and how much damage it did sustain and that it is going to have to be replaced. And gave them the two options that Bill, I think, initially had spoken to them about a boundary line adjustment, which is just a small corner of that culvert, or providing the town with an easement in order to get that culvert replaced. So I'm in hopes that by next Thursday, I will hear back from them. They told me they would invite me to a meeting, of which they hold on Thursday afternoon. So more to come on that. Spear Memorial Hospital, I had a good meeting with Spear Memorial Hospital, Michelle McEwen, back on December 16th. We talked about a number of topics. We discussed the partnership that the town has with Spear and the current pilot agreement that we've entered into. Michelle was quick to say that the relationships between Plymouth Fire and Rescue and Plymouth Police Department are exceptional and very strong, and they appreciate the efforts of both departments in providing assistance when needed and asked for. So we'll continue our meetings with them, Chief Hutchins, Chief Morrison, and hopefully we'll participate in discussing an emergency drill that we can do in collaboration with Spear Memorial Hospital. I met with Midstate Health, Robert McLeod, on December 21st. I had the opportunity to discuss a number of topics with him, including pilot agreements and the current agreement that we're in with them for the next 2 years, and really provided him documentation of the services and times that the police department, the fire department has responded, not only for emergency calls, but also just in servicing the facilities on building checks and things of that nature, as well as noting that Boulder Point is the only contracted road that we provide winter maintenance on. And the reason for that is the high use in that area with the Veterans Home, Spear Memorial, and Midstate. We had a great conversation, and Robert was going back to his board, executive board, and have a further conversation, of which I do plan to attend one of their executive board meetings over the next month. And we did talk about, some of the activities with regards to Little Antlers and what's that providing for the community with regards to childcare, as well as the Main Street project and what type of services will be included in that project down there. So, and overall, I think it was a great meeting. We had a great conversation, and I look for more positive conversations and communications with them.
Is Little Antlers a not-for-profit now, or what? Because it was too late for them to...
What's that, Bill?
Little Antlers, what's the status of that?
It's not for profit, but I have a meeting with our assessors Wednesday afternoon, because there are some limitations on what we can do with regards to childcare facilities in that manner. So I am following up on that, but it is nonprofit.
So what he's asking is whether or not it was up and operational by April 1st. Do you know if that was or not?
It was not operational by April 1st. I think, Kevin, we did the certificate of occupancy back in September.
Yeah, it was in the fall, yeah.
So it is up and operational now, so potentially it's nonprofit for this year.
For this year? Because they missed the April 1st? I mean,
But we're coming into April 1st again. We'd have to
Okay.
check on that to make sure.
Right, and that's what my meeting with Emily and Rick are about on Wednesday or Thursday afternoon.
They're aware of the deadline, or they're going to
Oh,
submit.
I'm sure they are aware of that deadline, yep.
Cause the
Yep.
initial issue.
So more to come on that. Operational efficiencies, maybe you are aware or not aware, but the town hall does not use our voicemail system and our phone system with the company we contract with. By the end of January, our answering, the message that answers will give you an opportunity to go to someone's direct extension and be able to speak to them without being able to speak to the receptionist, take a message, pass the message on. So voicemail will be operational by the end of January. Other good news is credit card payments will be accepted in Town Hall on the Recycling Center by the end of January. We'll have those machines up and operational. And we've implemented cybersecurity training for Town Hall staff, which is an electronic email that comes into each one of the staff members in Town Hall. And it's a weekly, monthly type quiz that they will take so we can monitor cybersecurity within Town Hall and our network and protect our assets.
Scott, what are we paying for credit card costs?
We are not paying anything. The actual user pays the service.
Ah, okay.
We had to pay,
3% or,
yes, same as the town
It's probably like
clerk.
a fee, like a $5 fee,
Right.
and then you pay, the initial 3% as well.
I think they're paying it the same as the town clerk's office, which was 2.95%.
okay, that makes more sense.
If they still have a user fee though. That's another-
Sometimes it depends on the card used. I know for us,
it's a
there's a
company,
fee if you use American Express on top of the 3%. But not for the others. Just curious.
We had talked about a couple meetings ago with regards to street lighting on the Main Street, Green Street, in the downtown area. The police department did a survey, and we have about 10 lights out, 3 on the Main Street, 7 on Green Street. Joe is in the process of working with a contractor to get those lights replaced with LED lighting and fixtures, and we should be able to do another evaluation after those lights have been replaced to see where we are seeing the dark areas.
And that was our Energy Commission that kind of initiated that, so.
Yes,
big
correct.
Thank you to them, so.
For sure.
Computer security upgrades and contract. Ann and I met with Katie LaValle from Certified Computer Solutions back a couple weeks ago. Our current contract expires January 31st, 2025. We updated the replacement schedule for computers as well as upgraded security features to include advanced gateway security, firewall threat detection, and blocking and cybersecurity training for employees, which has been implemented, which simulates phishing testing, employee vulnerability assessments, and micro trainings weekly, and dark web monitoring. So that's all in place now with CCS, effective, I think it was 2 weeks ago, it went into effect. Our cable TV contract with Charter, now known as Spectrum, is still the same status. Our budget process, as Zach mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we have a work session on January 17th for final review prior to the public hearing, first public hearing on January 23rd. Downtown Drainage Project, our pre-bid meeting will take place this Thursday, January 12th, and bid openings on January 27th at Town Hall. We've had 5 contractors that did reach out to HEB engineers to ask about the bid package and receive the bid package. Mary Ann in the Welfare Department, Mary Ann assisted 28 individuals with several different issues and topics over the last month. Highland Street Project, which has been ongoing for a couple of years now. And Joe and I met with Kathy Conway from Horizon Engineering, as well as another supervisor from Horizons with regards to trying to get all of our ducks in a row and make sure that we can move forward with this project. So we had a great conversation with them. They're reaching out to the state to find out where we are. As we reported a few weeks ago, the individual we had that was going to oversee and administer this project is unable to do so because of medical reasons. So Kathy and Horizons would be one that we are looking at to provide us a proposal on, number one, how would they be able to administer the project? And number two, would they be able to take on the engineering piece as well, seeing it's been let go for so long? But more information to come on that. We'll touch base again next week to see the status of where we are with Kathy and Horizons in the state. Next, Era Energy Services contract. Our contract with Next Era Energy Services was executed on December 20th. We were able to lock in a price of just under 11 cents per kilowatt hour, which was below the 11 cents that was initially approved by the Board of Selectmen, again, the Energy Commission. And I thank Grace for her work in getting this executed and put in place. Next thing, tax report. Currently, there is 998,000 plus in uncollected taxes from 2014 to 2022. This was as of January 5th. Uncollected notices will be sent later in January. Tax lien notices will be sent in February for liens to be placed on property in April. And tax deed takes place in March unless the property owner has a payment plan established. We do have 4 that have payment plans in place. They're only a verbal agreement, and I will be working with Linda so that we have written agreements in place in the event that we do have to go to tax deed. The good news is 92% of the 22 taxes have been paid as of January 5th, 2023. So I will continue to monitor that and figure out how we can better inform those that have taxes due, that money is owed to the town, and really go after that aggressively. And the last thing I have is Jim Kahn at the Recycling Center. We had spoken about an electric skid steer because there's some grant money out there for electric skid steers, and Jim did demo one last week. I haven't been able to talk to him. He was out sick for a couple of days at the end of last week, but more to come on that, on how he fared with 3 days of using that and how it held a charge, how it operated, and would it be a viable solution for our recycling center. So that concludes my report.
I saw the skid steer, but I didn't take it out for a test drive.
What was the project that Horizons is working on?
The Highland Street project, so
Street.
from Reservoir Road, Ward Bridge Road, down to Broadway, which would include the roadway, the drainage, the sidewalks, and also Plymouth Village Water and Sewer. We have a meeting with them on Thursday. I think it is Wednesday or Thursday afternoon, because they wanted to jump in on the project as well as replacing their lines while the road was torn up. And our understanding is that their lines are under the sidewalk on that stretch of road. So more to come on that as well.
That sounds good.
Was it Kathy Conway? Was she going to replace the guy that was like the Public Works Director? In
Yes.
quotes?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
all right.
Any other questions for Scott? Nope. Thanks, Scott. I appreciate those.
You're welcome.
And we did the old business. On to new business. Susan Amberg, Director of Whole Village, to talk about USDA Rural Community Facility Grant. Yeah, it's probably easier. I mean, you can stand at the podium, but it always feels awkward. So come sit with us.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
You're not gone yet.
No, tomorrow.
Oh,
My last official act as whole village director. Thanks for having me. I came here, I think it was probably about 2 years ago for a similar type of grant approval. We've applied to the USDA Rural Development Community Facilities Grant Program, which requires community support of every project demonstrated by coming to the select board. So When I came, and everyone was nice enough at the time to lend their support, we submitted a grant and were awarded a small grant from USDA towards revitalizing the whole village parking lot. With 16 social service agencies operating out of the building, there is a lot of back and forth and in and out, and the parking lot has become in need of a little love, shall we say. So it's failing. There are pieces of pavement breaking away. There are storm drains in one place and standing water in other places. And so it's in need of regrading and repaving. And when we got that small grant from USDA, when we thought it was going to be a small scope of project, they had suggested that with the amount of other issues going on, that we engage an engineer to look at the whole complex. And so we contracted with Du Bois and King, who did a whole engineering study and survey and soil samples, and they've come to determine that it is a much larger project than we had originally thought, and not only the pavement, but the material underneath the pavement needs to be scraped away, and that it's not draining properly, which is why we're having all of these heaving issues and the like. So the cost estimate to do the entire front parking lot, wrapping around to the back parking lot, and the roadway down to Bridge House, they think might be as much as in the 500,000s. So USDA gave us the opportunity to apply again for a larger grant, which is what I'm here seeking approval for tonight. They will pay for up to 35% of the cost of the project. So our application to USDA went in the middle of December for $177,000 and change, which represents 35% of the project. Granite United Way, who owns and operates Whole Village, we do have another $100,000 in fundraising that we have done that we can apply to that, and Granite United Way is prepared to finance the rest of the costs to do the full repair and bring it back up to where it should be. So there are no costs to the town in this application. It is purely fundraising dollars, USDA dollars, Granite United Way financing, but rightfully so, USDA wants to make sure it's supporting projects that the local community supports, and so they've asked me to come bring this to you for your approval.
I don't know if I should recuse myself or what. I would personally benefit from that.
As would, I think the Head Start families, I think, will be the happiest, because there's a half-day preschool program there with no transportation provided, so parents are coming in and picking up and dropping off every day in the section that is probably the worst of the whole parking lot. So for safety reasons, the sidewalks will be replaced as part of this too. They've been heaving up and down over the years with the road, and so for safety reasons, we really need to take care of this.
Is there a timeline?
So Du Bois and King is going to do all the bid documents. USDA, if you take their funds, they have a very specific, bid process, which requires multiple bids and written bids and all of that. So they're going to oversee that. We're hoping to go to bid in February, March. And the time frame that would work best for completing the project would be next summer, when Head Start is out for the year.
Next summer being 2024?
No, 2023.
2023. Oh, okay.
2023.
Wow, that's fast.
Yes. Our two biggest concerns in how to handle the logistics of doing this were the residents at Bridge House, because we have people living on the property, and also Head Start. So I think, I've said it, you know, before, I wish we had 2 curb cuts, but there's only that one entrance in, and with the $500,000 price tag just to replace that, I don't think we're looking at 2 curb cuts. But they can do it. It is wide enough so they can do, like, from the, if you're familiar with the complex, from the garage area in front of Head Start and that half of the entryway, and then move over and do the other half of the front, so that there will always be, you know, entryway in and out. They can do that in 2 halves at the entranceway. So, so at least if we wait till summer, till after school gets out, it takes one of the big concerns off the plate, and then we can just worry about all the agencies that are based at Whole Village and the services they provide, and also making sure the Bridge House residents are taken care of through the process.
You're handing this off to somebody or some people?
I am. So Bill Sherry, who is the Chief Operating Officer for Granite United Way,
Okay.
is very involved in all of this. He's the one who is now communicating directly with USDA, and I saved him a trip coming up from Manchester tonight.
How do you spell his last name?
It's Sherry, and he's the Chief Operating Officer for Granite United Way, and their statewide office is in Manchester. And he's been my direct supervisor for the last 8 years, so he's very familiar with the complex and
You're semi-autonomous.
semi-autonomous. When your boss is an hour away, you gotta fend for yourself. Yep.
Well,
Is there anything
Do a
else?
motion.
I was going to make a motion that we support this zero cost to the town initiative for the whole village center to redo its driveway/parking area.
I'll second. Right there.
Any discussion? I assume this also goes to the planning board?
No, there's no change of use or
You're just fixing what they got.
just fixing what they already have.
Yeah, so they don't have to review? I was just thinking about Lakes Region Mental Health, and the planning board reviewed that, but was that
Oh, they-
because
they
the
did
There was a
lot of
change
change,
there.
yeah.
change to
Direct
the
upgrade.
The
actual
curb cut.
curb cut? Okay,
yeah.
yeah, gotcha.
This is the existing curb cut, this is the
And no
existing
changes.
parking lot, the existing roadway. It is fixing what we have. It's not changing the footprint of anything.
Yeah, I wondered if it triggered like for runoff and drainage and that kind of thing, but I guess not. All those in favor?
Aye.
I can vote, right?
You get to choose whether you recuse yourself or not.
Personally,
That is
I don't
a
find myself
personal
in.
choice.
So aye.
I don't think it was going to risk the vote if you did or
No, I
did.
wasn't gonna change it. I just want to be on record.
Any opposition? None.
All right, well, thank you very
Thank you.
much, I appreciate it. They do have a
Thank you.
form, can I leave that with
Sure.
you? And Christine Perry at Whole Village will be in touch with
Okay.
you during that. Okay, thank you.
Bon voyage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On that side note,
luck.
I,
Are you retiring or are
some
you
other
moving
stuff to be
on?
signed. Did you-
I'm moving,
there.
we're
But the bill-
relocated.
It needs to go to Marion and
coasted this way
Thanks
while
for
we're
all
talking.
you've done.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Chiefs, a building committee update.
Don't forget to
Inside
get
seat.
close to your mics if you can, Tom, just so that Colleen doesn't yell at him.
Keep me out of trouble.
Hi, Colleen.
She'll appreciate that.
All right.
All right, so I can talk while I pass out. This is just, what you'll see in this packet is the top one's just kind of a written update of where we're at. And then the back side, oh, sorry about that.
That's okay. I haven't had to use it tonight.
Back side is actually the Turner Group's proposal. So,
Get one for the minutes.
bring the board up to speed. Sorry, I should probably talk into this thing. Bring the board up to speed. The needs assessment committees met a few times over the last few months. We discussed, I think Zach was there, and I know Scott was there. We discussed the objectives. One meeting, the other meeting, we visited the police and fire stations, did site visits. They got a chance to observe both facilities, the woes, the needs, get to witness where we're struggling with space and et cetera. So then, on another occasion, Chief Morrison, myself, Scott, Rob Reese, we were able to meet with our, Scott, please interject, the Turner Group representative that we've worked with in the past. The town's worked with them through a few projects, and including the replacement of police and fire service buildings. He was actually really helpful. It was Mr. William Hickey, if any of you are familiar with him. He was really helpful with, giving us some history with these projects, some of the stuff that we weren't necessarily involved with. He also has a lot of data for us from the previous projects that we can't seem to find in our records. Don't know why. But so he's a huge resource for us. And then basically what the results of the committee were, unanimously it was agreed that, both facilities, police and fire, need to be replaced as they sit right now. They're outdated. Each department has outgrown its present needs in use for the building. The infrastructure's failing. It's cost prohibitive. There's safety issues and concerns. It's stuff we already knew. Each chief's brought it up to the board, and so at this point we're kind of at a kind of a Y intersection where we move down to a stalemate, or the next logical step would be to consult with Turner Group. Now, Turner Group has offered us a proposal. We chose to work with them because they know this town intimately. They've done several projects here. They have the data that we need, and what we've asked for them to provide us with is essentially a contract for the sum of around $25,000, and what it would do is they would offer professional evaluations in each facility, and what it would do is they'd come in with their architects and engineers and civil service professionals and come in and evaluate each facility, tell us what we need to do to bring it up to code, what we need to do to fix each facility and infrastructure and the buildings, and add on what that would cost, and really if it would be cost prohibitive or it would be worth the money to get there. This contract, as you can see, is pretty lengthy. That's really the gist of what the contract would do, and with their history with us, they could probably help us get further if we need to. I know that Chief Morrissey could speak that they've done a lot for us in the past pro bono too. So, Chief.
The good thing too is that one of their principals is still there that looked at our facilities before. And so he's already reached out to say, hey, I'm glad you're starting this back up again. And so in that pro bono work, they'll also be looking at those sites to some extent, not just the structure, but is the site, for instance, ours we know is too small. The PD's is, solid ledge behind it, not a lot of room to grow, but.
Do these assessments also include what it would cost to expand the size of the facilities?
Cost?
So this is talking about getting an evaluation and a cost analysis to bring each facility to code and correct the space needs. So
Yes.
they come back and say, this is how much it would cost to add the additional capacity that you need there, or the
Yep.
additional space.
They
that you
would
need there.
estimate that.
Yeah,
Is that even possible on your lot?
I don't think so, and Scott and I have talked about this. I don't think we're gonna come up with anything new here than what they came up with last time for conclusion, but I think it's a step that we have to go through.
So effectively, we're spending this money so that we can come back to the town and say, we think we want to build a new facility.
Yeah,
If we don't build a new facility, this is how much it's going to cost to bring our existing facilities up, so that we're
Right.
not comparing the cost of a new facility to zero.
Right.
Instead, we're comparing the cost of a new facility to,
something.
this is what it would take just for us to use what we've got now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this
That's fair.
proposal won't be looking at the replacement cost of place house, more land, new structure. Will it also be doing that, or just the,
I think it's
Okay.
just what we have existing to bring that.
Would be the next step after this,
Right,
right? So we would
correct.
get back this report, it would say it's gonna cost X, or it would cost X and you're not gonna solve these 5 problems because you
Right.
don't have the space to do it, but it'll
Right.
cost X to get it up to snuff.
Right, and then
And then we would go do another,
another
you know,
route.
another, with a different consulting firm or the same, to say,
Yeah.
what would it take for us to build a facility?
Yeah. The good thing about the Turner Group is that they have all of the realms in-house. Civil engineers, structural engineers, fire protection engineers, all under the same roof.
so why wouldn't we do both at the same, obviously they aren't doing both. The proposal include both. Both a new, so I can compare.
We could, I mean, it's only money, yeah.
If
Yeah,
we're
but that's a-
confident, if we're confident that this proposal is gonna come back and say, these sites don't work for us, then I still think what we're doing here is necessary to give the townspeople the right information.
Right,
But it's actually not gonna move the project
Right.
really that far forward, right? Because you're gonna have to follow that up with a second thing.
no, and the thing that concerns me is, property acquisition.
Which is a
There's
big
not a lot of
challenge.
sites that would work for us. There are 1 or 2, but by the time we get ready to do something, are they gonna be available? I mean, I don't know what we do about that today, but try to move forward, like you said.
Yeah. Because
I
it
mean, you
it seems almost certain if we build a new facility, we're going to have to acquire a site. We don't have any currently town-owned location that is viable. Is that a correct assumption?
I would say that's correct assumption. And I mean, my thoughts behind it is that having this evaluation done by the engineers provides a level of transparency that shows that both of these facilities, from a structural, mechanical, electrical perspective, this is what it's going to cost for us to bring these 2 facilities up to code, and they still don't meet the space needs for the future of the departments,
Right.
right? And the town,
Honestly, it would be a different conversation if we were talking about a couple of landmark historical buildings in town that we were all like, well, of course we want to invest because we're committed to this facility. I think about this building, for example, right? We've invested a lot of money over the years in making this building effective because it is a landmark. That is not the case for either of these facilities.
right.
I don't think anybody would shed a tear if either of those buildings were turned into a parking lot.
I think you're right, and I didn't feel that I, as the chair of the committee, or necessarily the committee, was willing to reach over you and go to the Turner Group and say, hey, draw us up proposals for site evaluations in buildings. I think that's something that we want to work with you on to get to that point. So this, like Scott said, this was the transparency piece that's saying, hey, it's not just the police chief, fire chief want a new building. This is a documentation that support that.
I think that this is important in terms of the due diligence process here.
And
It's, on the surface, $25,000 is a lot of money to spend, but when you're talking about either upgrading a facility or replacing a facility, that's a lot higher price tag than $25,000. So
It's an expensive mistake to make if you do the wrong thing.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
We're also going to gain their perspective, which I think is going to be important when they say neither site is acceptable either. Not only the building's insufficient, but the sites themselves.
Right.
So, and I think that's going to be important to go, to the townspeople with.
Yeah. Unless we can get a bulk rate on dynamite for.
One thing I'd like to do, and I don't know, I think we would need your approval, is to get a cost estimate on what those two properties are worth. I think that'll be important to have sooner
And
than later.
admittedly, I think the property that the fire station sits on is a much more valuable piece of property.
Agreed.
Because it's got the house too.
It's got the house, it's in a prime location in terms of our downtown area.
Nothing
I mean, I
else, we
think-
could use it to sell parking spaces.
I think we could get an analysis
Parking garage.
without cost.
We could get an
Granted, it's going to
appraisal.
change. It's going to change down the road, but at least we'd have an idea, again, to report back to the town meeting, that that's going to be a good offset to the cost of this project, is the sale of those two properties.
Well, at the same time, we may find ourselves in a position where to get the piece of property we need to build the facility, we're doing some sort of trade or something with someone to, I don't know.
Do you have any idea how much a replacement would cost for a joint building or a building or a,
Last time we looked at it, it was $5 million
okay.
for the complex.
I'll say that's the number I had in my head was 5 million.
Yeah.
Is that on the cheap side at this point, though?
I think so.
Probably.
Yeah,
But,
I mean,
you know, that was
inflation's what, 30% for building materials, so.
That was a 50 to 75-year building. That was a quality building.
Is that police and fire at that time?
Yeah, it was.
Do we want to break down police and fire separately? Just to have that more information.
You mean to build separate facilities?
Yeah, what the cost would be to build separate, information overload, but
I would say your space needs would be very different for the specific lot, if that was the case.
sure.
We could. I mean, the committee, I think, is settled on the fact that there'll be enough efficiencies gained if we do a combo.
I think you gain huge efficiency. You think about one HVAC system. You talk about one system for your phone, one system, all of these things that you have to put in a building, and your
Yeah.
internet connection and your custodial services and all of these things.
Fire alarm
suddenly,
system, sprinkler.
Yeah, exactly. Security alarms,
Yeah.
And I mean, something else that we talked about in the beginning, and I still think it's a good idea, is some type of a community all-purpose room.
I do too.
That's within that facility, so it's not just,
Well, suddenly, you have a 24-hour monitored facility, right? And, we don't have any, I guess we do at the library, but it's not, it's
but
not.
really for an all-purpose community room. Someone could go in and have a basketball game, or, it could be used by adults that have a league.
We
or-
do not, there is no recreation center in this
Right.
town. We
So-
we do beg and borrow sometimes from the university with mixed results.
I do-
But it doesn't expand the scope, but it,
I do want to add in that Mr. Hinckley, is it Hinckley or Hickey? Hickey, from the Turner Group, stated that he has done projects to involve that. So he does have that, they have that expertise as well.
We
I don't
also,
remember which town, but I just drove by one in the North Country 2 weeks ago.
built a new complex.
It looked like, within the last 5 years, it was a fairly new complex, and it was all three.
Was it Twin Mountain? Did they do a fire police? Somebody up
I
that
think it was
way.
north of Twin
Whitefield
Mountain.
did. Whitefield did some work up there, but
And the committee has, we will go and visit other sites to get
Some ideas,
ideas.
yeah.
and-
It could be
have
an
some
op,
questions.
Of course.
What's the status of the National Guard Armory building?
That's in the future.
Stuck.
I thought they had a 10-year plan.
A 10-year maybe, but, that was like, what, 3 years ago? Something like that.
So it's at a hiatus as far as
Yeah, I think,
whether we're gonna
Last
get
time
it?
the general responded to us, they said that they weren't even sure they were going to let that piece of property go
Right.
when they moved.
oh, yeah, whatever.
That was the most recent letter from them.
Oh.
Well, yeah, that's to be determined. But they're not
Yeah,
going,
but
they're
that's
not
like
going,
a different
but they are
fight.
not going to move out of that building for a long
No.
time.
Right, exactly.
Okay, because we did have quite a lot of discussion about that.
I mean, in terms of location, that's
Yeah,
it's a
well,
solid location.
they were talking about leaving it, and we might have a chance at it. But,
Yeah, then you got like
other
highways.
question I
mean,
have
there's
is,
people know.
the property across from the lodge that,
That's
gonna
occupied
get
by the
demoed.
school.
Oh, no, he's
and-
talking,
and
you're
the-
talking about
He's
the
talking
the
about
brown
the
house?
condemned
they own the
building.
McDonald's
Okay.
lot?
Or the
They do.
McDonald's
Yeah,
lot?
maybe the McDonald's.
That
too,
might
they're
make
both.
a really great location, because you can go in all directions from there. And it's downhill.
We have a
I
couple
think downhill
of,
matters
It's
less
a
than
jumpstart,
the
trucks
modern
and stuff.
era. but-
Get a fast start.
we've had a couple of conversations that we would want to discuss in non-public about specific properties.
Yeah, I would agree.
It doesn't have to
Anytime
be
we get-
today, but
I actually have another real estate topic I would like to discuss in non-public today, so
Oh.
if we wanted to continue speculation around,
If you're
Locations,
willing
we
to
can do
accept
that.
our professional opinion in evaluation, we'd love to have that conversation.
So right now, we're looking potentially $25,000.
Yep.
We definitely do not have it in this year's budget.
That was my
However,
question.
we could add a warrant article to next year's budget if the board would be willing to allow that to be put in.
we raised some money for the capital improvement program. This current,
Yes.
is that money all spent, or is there still money in that account? 'Cause this would fit that
Because it is
generalized
capital.
definition.
Well, Ann's checking. What's the deal with Barnstead? Barnstead Elementary School.
It's an example.
It's
Oh, that's an example?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
One of their
yeah, they
projects.
It
listed,
says example.
they listed
What's the story with Barnstead?
a bunch of the projects that they've worked on. I think this was somewhat of a boilerplate document, but these are projects that they,
I gave you guys a full stack. I apologize. I meant to give you the smaller stack.
I like the full stack.
So there currently is 20,000 right now in the planning CIP, capital land and improvement.
I mean, we'd have to go to the CIP committee probably before we went and stole their money, but
Well, we could encumber that. When do you see this starting?
I think it's,
They're prepared to roll right now.
I think it needs to move forward.
And the board is going to waive going out to get bids under the recommendations of the,
my only
Building
thought
committee.
of why we might want to do that is that this particular firm worked with us on the previous project. And so I think we gain a lot of pre-existing value if we went with them, but if the board was
Was there
comfortable with that,
was there work simply to do a new facility though?
I'm sorry?
Wasn't there work to do a new facility?
Yes, but they did a lot of that background
Review.
information and data collection, which
Yeah,
hasn't changed a lot. So there's gonna be a cost savings in the future too if we maintain that
Do we have,
relationship.
oh, we don't have that, or we do have that?
They do.
They have that old information?
Yep.
That we didn't get a copy, or?
We did at one point.
time, but we've
Yeah.
since lost it. I would hope that maybe we
Yeah, there's a lot of
train our records a little better this time.
efficiencies to be gained in working with them. I mean, you could go out to bid. I don't know that you're gonna do any better in the long run, but that would be my suggestion, is to work with them.
especially with the institutional knowledge that they can provide to the town on what they've done in the past and what areas they've reviewed.
If we're gonna warrant article this, should we,
You might not have to. I mean, the eventual building you do, but this piece you might not have to.
well, my concern was, at some point, we're gonna have to enter in them with a bigger contract to get architectural design and assessments of sites, and should be looking to a bigger number to warrant article to just keep that ball rolling, so.
there is no money in next year's budget for the building that was taken out. There's no capital reserve
No,
being
no
created,
additional, right,
no
yes.
anything. So, as you mentioned, there's 20,000 for the planning CIP. you have 5,000 in one of the budgets, or 25 for you and 25 for police department potentially? That you could
could
talk
look at
to them
that, yeah.
and do that? Okay, so we
We
could,
want to talk to, again, I think we'd want to just confirm with Phil Lemerow, who's currently the sitting chair of that CIP committee, to make sure it doesn't freak them out.
I don't see that money being used for anything.
No, me
else right
either.
now.
I think he would be, I think that committee and him, I think everybody would be in support. I'm always afraid of taking money in case people have been thinking of something they're gonna do.
So you're
That committee
saying,
will reactivate after, probably in April or
March,
something.
April, yeah.
Yeah.
if that didn't work, we could have a warrant on this town meeting? Yeah, okay.
If the board would put that in the budget, you could have a warrant one for that. And just return that 20,000 to the town.
Yeah, I mean, if we could do it with existing funds, that seems like a win right out of the gate. We don't have to go ask for more money, spend money they've already been given.
But the 25 is only half the project.
That's only the beginning.
That's only,
It's
Right.
it's the first piece.
Right.
the other pieces we don't know yet.
Right, so how do we get the money for the we don't know yet?
Well, we'd have to find out what the value is that we're talking about to either retrofit the existing properties and bring them up to snuff, or purchase a new, or construct a new building.
Right, but to look at constructing a new building, we're gonna have to go back to Turner and
We're gonna have to
into
go back
another
to somebody
contract
to find
proposal.
out what that's gonna cost.
Yeah, that would be a separate contract.
well, where does that money come from?
The next town meeting.
That would have to be at a town meeting.
So 24.
Yeah,
Okay.
couldn't do it this year, we
Right.
don't have time.
There's a lot more legwork that needs to be done before we
Yeah.
get to that stage.
You want us to stick around for a continued non-public?
Yeah, on this topic, we probably should make sure the board's supportive of this, and then you all going and seeing if you can scrounge the money. Yeah, consensus or a motion?
Just tell them when you want them to come back. Next meeting,
When's the next meeting? Next meeting's a
meeting in February, would that
budget
work?
work session. I mean, we could do January 23rd.
I'd rather do the 23rd
23rd's fine.
myself, but,
Yeah.
23rd of January.
yeah,
Okay.
we'll be here anyway for the
And
hearing.
if in the meantime you discover that that money's not gonna work, then
We'll have to do a
23rd, you'll have to come with a drafted warrant article for us to discuss at the top of the meeting.
We should know by the end of the week.
No, we won't have drafted warrant article. What we'll have is the board saying, yes, put it in the budget, or no, don't put it in the budget.
Okay.
That's, we won't, our warrant articles, we're still working on them right now.
But aren't we reading those? Oh, no, we're not reading them till the 9th. I'm
Not
sorry.
until-
I thought we were reading them on the 23rd. Nope, sorry.
We'll need to know on the 23rd whether or not we're gonna add 25,000 to the
Yes.
budget. We'll have that answer.
Yep. And hopefully the answer is we're not going to.
Do you want to talk to Chief Hutchins, or do you want me to, about the 2,500?
I'll let you
Okay,
speak to him.
perfect.
And we'll speak to the CIP chairman and CC you on the emails. Is that okay?
Perfect. Yes.
Yeah. Do you guys want to stick around for a discussion? Okay,
Yeah.
let's plan to do that, and then all we have left are committee reports, and so we'll run through those.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Where's that coming from?
Kevin, can you send an extra copy of that so I can put it with the minutes, please?
yeah, it's when he brushed up against.
Oh, okay. But it was, I guess he brushed up the
Yeah.
earlier.
Plymouth Village Water and Sewer.
So we have a meeting tomorrow, but last meeting, let's see, we obviously talked about South Main Street. They brought up what happens if the monies don't pass, the warrant article don't pass. Where did they get the additional $500,000? They do have a public hearing.
What's that 500,000
The
is
difference now.
for downtown drainage?
Correct, correct. So it's actually 577,000. That's part of the public hearing on the 24th. There's actually a couple more public hearings.
January 24th?
Yes, 5 PM, I believe.
Mary Ann, can you pull that closer to you, please?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Thank you.
I'll sit up. Public hearing for the Holderness well field supply, 960,000. Public hearing as well as the Holderness emerging contaminants for 1.2 million. So pretty hefty conversation. Then there was a discussion with a David Fox. I'm going to screw up his last name, or it's from Raftillis, to look at restructuring the rates. Obviously, they don't want to go up if they don't have to. How can we do that? So they're engaging with those folks. Let's see. Rates.
Can I ask you a question about the contaminants and
Yeah.
holiness? What's the deal with that?
So my understanding, this was a while ago, was in between the start of the project and moving forward with the project, there was a new requirement to do some
PFAS or something like that? or-
something like that. Yes, yes.
Okay.
So that's additional now work they have to do. Yeah, that was not a pretty thing. Let's see. They talked about ways to pay for capital expenditures along with the rate structure. Ways to increase revenue, although that's still beginning discussions. 90% of the Holderness well design has been completed, so they're getting close. Talked about the Main Street project as well. Oh, we got an update from Scott on that. That's about it.
All right. Neil, planning board.
We didn't have a meeting since our last meeting.
There was a
Yeah, it's
planning board
best.
meeting last Thursday.
Last Thursday?
Yeah. And I only know because I watched part of the summary of it.
That was first, wow, I missed it.
Looking at the zoning.
Yeah, where they reviewed the.
I looked at the website and I didn't see it.
Yeah, I've noticed that the events on our website seem to have gotten a little less updated. than
They are really hard to find.
They're A, very hard to find, and B, they don't actually work on my phone. So that's a thing, but
I'll speak to that if I can.
sure.
So there is a tab halfway down on the main page that is calendar. That is the same as the old calendar on the old website that sat on the right-hand side. So that still ties in with the Google Calendar with all of the meetings and everything there.
So I'm not sure who's updating the Google Calendar, but I think that's part of the problem. And then the other is that the way that tab works, it's
Yep.
an iframe, and it won't,
Okay.
on iOS,
phones it
you
won't
can't-
show?
Yeah, you can't even load it on a phone.
I wasn't aware of that, so I will go in and fix that as best as I can. I update from when I get, for instance, your meetings for this calendar year. Those have all been updated through December, and then anything else that's presented to me. So if I don't have it, unless someone else has access to that Google Calendar, it doesn't get updated. So it was there, Neil. I guess you just missed it on that tab.
I couldn't find it.
Okay, fair enough.
That happens. So the big conversation, like Bill said, they talked about the zoning amendments that were going to be on the warrant. It was the first hearing for those. And the one that had the most discussion was the amendment to remove the 300-foot requirement for off-site parking in the downtown village commercial district.
Yep.
And so that one had pretty active conversation around.
Uh-huh.
And the next public hearing on that is January 19th for the second public hearing
Right.
on the zoning amendments.
Yes.
So I was concerned about the degree of conversation that went on to zoning amendments that have been talked about for months.
Well, that one hasn't been, though.
Oh, it hasn't?
No, that one, the prior meeting, it was added.
Oh,
It was the first discussion of it was the prior meeting, so that was only the second planning board
Okay.
meeting that had even been discussed. So that one came pretty fast and furious.
all right. Okay.
I think that's why it had as much, it was not one that had been bandied about for 6 months,
All right.
like the rest of them.
Yep.
The planning board started at 6:30?
6:30, yeah, Thursdays. Every other, whatever.
Also upcoming is a conversation with the planning board about Tenny Mountain.
There's two conceptual conversations taking place on January 19th. One is Tenny Mountain,
Yeah, non-binding, just like the initial
and then the
concept.
second one is Riverside Landing Phase 2. Mike McGinley will be in to talk about his conceptual ideas for Riverside Landing Phase 2 on January 19th as well.
Yeah, so January 19th, a action-packed planning board meeting. Anything else about planning board? Campus Community Council?
No meeting scheduled yet, but I'll get with Marlon to start working out a time to schedule the next one for spring.
Great. And while we're on TED, elementary school,
They are meeting, well,
now.
now, or have met now. I don't know if they're done
This
yet,
is-
but
Their first budget only budget hearing is right now.
last I knew from last month, they were showing a $600 and change thousand increase in their budget.
Yeah, I think that's what our minutes showed that we just approved tonight. Was you gave an exact number? I think it was, I don't know, dollar plus
It's like $1.40.
$1.40 on the school tax rate for the elementary school. High school had their budget hearing last Tuesday, and they had originally committed to only increasing 3% on the year-over-year budget, but the budget as proposed was plus 4.5%. So there was a little bit of concern amongst the audience and the board about that difference. So they are having a second hearing next Tuesday, which conflicts with our meeting, of course. But for anybody who's very interested, they do have that meeting. It looks like the overall high school budget is up, I want to, 4.5%, but I think 1.4 million total.
So $2.
Well, it's districted.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So that's not all to us, and I
That's
didn't-
why you were looking for that
Yeah, that's why I
number.
was trying to find out what our percentage of the total was, but
We can find out and.
I seem to recall it's something. It's more than 60%. Maybe like 68 or something like that. So could be an additional $1.50. So everybody's coming in high. We've got the water and sewer struggling with theirs. We've got the high school. We've got the elementary school. We have us. It's going to be tough. Yeah, I would definitely encourage people. I would love for them to come to our work session, but I think the high school budget hearing, if anybody is really interested in the tax rate in town and controlling that, attend the high school budget hearing next week. I think that's an opportunity to make an impact.
What time is that? Do you know?
I think it's at 5.
I think it's at 5, but it could be 5:30. Oh, Dan is signaling us with 5.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. And that is, usually they do the budget hearings in the cafeteria at the high school in case there's more people, but it also could be in the Bobcat room where they
Yeah, which is
have
right
their
next to the
meetings.
cafe.
next to the cafe. So it's either upstairs or downstairs, but there was a very clear sign on the door last time.
Your meeting next week, I don't think will be very long at all, so maybe you all will have a chance to get out of
Chance
here
to
and get
zoom
there.
over there.
Right.
I got the time wrong for the high school budget hearing, so I walked in, I picked up my materials, and they said, we're now closing the hearing on the budget, and I was like, I turned around and I walked out the door. That was frustrating, but my own fault. Yeah, that's high school. Conservation Commission, Neil.
Conservation Commission canceled its December meeting.
Okay. Cancel in December, and they meet again soon.
I think it's the third Tuesday.
Okay. CIP is on hold, like we said, probably until March or April. Advisory Budget Committee, Ted?
No report.
No report. LRPC, Bill?
I had to miss the last meeting,
All right.
executive committee meeting. And I missed the commissioners meeting as well.
Well, that's usually
Yep.
right now. Parks and Rec Commission, Ted?
No meeting planned yet.
Parking Committee, Mary Ann?
Hopefully meet again this week or next week, trying to get everyone together to continue conversation about Green Street lighting. This time, Gail from Senior Center will be hopefully involved in that conversation as well.
Great. Perlac?
I'm desperately doing the minutes now. This, the meeting is at, I guess the 30th or whatever. It's the last Tuesday of the month. And it's only been 2 months, and I'm finally doing the minutes.
Anything interesting out of those minutes?
Yeah.
Minutes.
So it's the whole river evaluation flow, and that actually had a follow-up hearing after our meeting with DES. It was like the Senate and the House members were present, basically to identify the next two rivers that were going to be evaluated for flow rate, and it's going to be the Isinglass and the Pemmy. So they've identified monies, and that's going to be a very useful tool to evaluate projects that are going in that are utilizing a lot of like drawdown water from the Pemmy, like golf courses, for example.
Right.
But
Good. I assume no update on Economic Development Committee?
Not at the moment, but I'm hopeful.
Hopeful. Energy Commission?
Grace and company have been extremely active. I'm just thinking about volunteer organizations such as theirs, just like burning through hours without compensation. So they're doing a great job.
On the note of Energy Commission, as we get further into this building consideration, we need to make sure the Energy Commission is somehow involved in that project, so that whatever we
True.
design or build or plan is considering energy cost, energy efficiency,
That's also a consideration that they've had with regard to like approaching the planning board. Not necessarily putting a member of theirs on the planning board like Conservation Commission, has, but still being involved in design and final review.
Yeah. And I know Maggie has indicated her interest a couple of times on that. So as we get a little further on, I think we should make sure that something happens there. And last but not least, Chamber of Commerce.
No meeting last month, meeting on Thursday.
All right. This Thursday. All right, and so that's the end of our formal agenda. Oh, Anne's got something
Just one
else.
other item in your package. You are going to see your budget that's in there. We have made a couple changes, but we'll definitely go through those on the 17th. And I think that we're making additional changes, minor, just placement of items. And we will definitely have, the bottom line will not change from what it is right now, between now and the 17th. So just please make sure you review those, know what numbers are, know where.
And this includes everything that's warrant articled. So this 262, it includes the downtown drainage, it includes the solar array, et cetera, et cetera.
Everything, yep.
All right, thank you. And that, we don't have Frank, so there is no public comments.
Nobody else there?
Nobody else is online either.
No,
so.
nobody online. Can we go to non-public for real estate?
Sure. Make a motion to enter non-public in accordance to RSA 91-A:3, number 2, item D, real estate.
Second.
Neil, your vote.
Aye.
Mary Ann?
Aye.
Zach, aye. Bill?
Aye.
Ted?
Aye.
And that's non-public.